Yo, guys, welcome to the Cancel This podcast. I am your host, Jake, and I got my boy up in the house, as always, your co-host, DJ Mitz. Guys, we got some crazy topics to talk about. I think a good opener for this would be like, Trump could have Jesus on his cabinet and he could cure cancer and the Libbies would still be losing their minds. I think that's a fair bet to say. And the desperation is hemorrhaging out of the left side right now. And only 18 days into, Trump being in office, and they're already looking to impeach him. So not even a month. But the topics are hot today, guys. We're going to be talking about a whole myriad of things, hot topics. We're going to be talking DEI, the plane crashes, what's really been happening, guys. I think from the military perspective, Jeff brings a ton of expertise from the medical field. We're going to be talking USAID, guys, the financial terrorism you're seeing going on in the country. We're going to go over some of the recent executive orders that Trump has been doing. You've probably seen some of the stuff with the tranny movement, the LGBT, now T removed, promises made. What has Trump been doing, guys? What is going to be happening in the future? Hot topics, things that he's actually been doing for this country and following through with the transparency. We're going to look at, and finally, we'll try to finish out here because there's a lot of stuff to go through, is the presidential nominations. A lot of interesting individuals being brought into either his cabinet or just the nominations in general. And we'll kind of talk about where those at, what we're seeing. Probably some you're not even aware of. Oh, I want to jump straight into it, bro. And let's talk DEI, man. A lot of the DEI madness, maybe how it works in conjunction with the plane crashes that have been going on. What is your take on DEI as a whole and Trump getting rid of this garbage?
Yeah, well, I think first off, back this thing up 10, 12 months ago, DEI was a different meaning to us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of saw that, right? So it was everybody had to jump on board, because what happened if you weren't DEI approved and running DEI through your organization as a major player, Fortune 500, Fortune 300 company? What happened then, right? So the masses, if you will, would completely destroy you if you weren't DEI approved. Let's fast forward to where we sit right now, and how many people have jumped out of the DEI madness. I'll go back to what I said probably 4 or 5 years ago, and this may not come as a surprise to you, Jake, at all. But before the Obama administration, I would use DEI as this, and this is going to come across as a really strong point right now. Before the Obama administration, how much did we talk about racism?
I know.
So now we have DEI. So that's the new word we're using, is DEI. So it's another fancy word for racism, right? So
well said.
Everybody has to have the feel-good touch, taste, feel of it. And then you saw what happened with Bud Light. And then you're seeing what's happened with Bud Light right now. Jet brand in general is coming back, mainstream media, Super Bowl commercials all over the place, using comedians and stars and that sort of thing. And all of a sudden, so I go back to what I said before, and we could talk about plane crashes. And hey, let's not forget about the cargo ship that ran into the bridge in Baltimore, right? That went away.
Nobody heard about that one, did they?
Yeah, and then that's gone. But it goes back to, is DEI just another fancy word for the R word, right? Which no one really wants to say it until they mention Trump, but no one wants to say the R word. So we'll just use some fancy shit like DEI, and hopefully that will appease everybody going into it. So hopefully I didn't come across too brash right there, but let's just, cancel this is the podcast. So here we are, right? And this is where we're sitting in February of 2025.
Yeah, well, of course they're going to mention DEI is just another woke acronym for racism. And you just saw that they're pulling the end racism slogan off of the
NFL.
The
NFL's doing it, not the end zone anymore.
Probably don't want to have that with Trump showing up, and because it's a load of hot garbage, and because it's getting destroyed. And I just want to talk like the DEI piece in conjunction with a lot of the plane crashes. Now, I do want to say this, our hearts go out to the people that have been injured, have died from that. Really, they all perished. And I can say that too from actually having friends that have crashed in helicopters who have actually died overseas. And so it's a really sad event that had happened, and our hearts go out to them. But this is the problem with things like DEI, and you have idiots. And I will say this, Stephen A, ESPN man, comes out and he was all for Trump when the election was going on. And then you see him made this comment, it was just earlier this week, about DEI. And he's like, I think that with the DEI, man, it's all about just not getting blacks into the dude, bro. It's not about black, white, purple, brown. I don't care your race, man. It's not about race. It's about the unqualified people that are put in positions to run this country. And here's in the FAA, here's a clear example. Guys, I was a medevac rescue Black Hawk pilot for 10 years in the United States Army. I can tell you intimately, when you have someone unqualified on an aircraft or someone maintaining your airspace, things are going to get really sticky really fast. I was flying a mission in Afghanistan, coming out of Jalalabad in Afghanistan, and I was taking off just like that Black Hawk helicopter of the young lady that was flying that. And by the way, guys, there's 2 pilots in all those aircraft, just so you know, and we're going to break this down. I was taking off, and as I was taking off, we had an Apache coming in on final. We didn't see each other. And guys, it happens. It's like reality. And the Apache helicopter, the attack helicopter, was coming into land. Dude, I was within a rotor disc of colliding with this Apache helicopter. I went down left. He went high. We just missed each other. ATC didn't catch it. There was no one on the radios catching it in the radio transmission. And again, there's 2 pilots. One guy is flying. One guy or gal is flying the aircraft while another one is supposed to be maintaining the radios. In this case, you're looking at DEI and some of these very unqualified personnel. And a lot of the libbies, man, they're going to go out and say like, well, Trump's the one that put a halt on the government and so that no one could hire people. Let's back up. Let's get the truth out here. A lot of the people that were hired in the FAA before Trump wasn't even around, the last 4 years, the Biden administration is responsible for these inept, uneducated individuals, unqualified individuals being put into these positions. Case in point, Phil Washington, the FAA, the guy that's in charge of the FAA, who was investigated by Senator Cruz. This is a year ago about his unqualifications being the FAA administrator, the FAA director, basically. And he was asked, have you flown any aircraft? Have you been in a company that has even worked around aircraft? Have you been a part of ATC? Have you been around aircraft that manufactures airplanes or helicopters? Have you fixed airplanes? No. But yet he's nominated by the Biden administration, and those types of individuals, it just so happens this guy's Black. It doesn't matter. The point is he's unqualified. He had 0 experience. And so when you look at the crash, sadly, in Washington, that crash, man, ATC was all over the place. And the people that were operating within the FAA, within ATC, they just weren't communicating. And they didn't have the experience or the manpower really to do it. And that's not a Trump problem. It's not the fact that they didn't have that. When you look back, it's because of the lack of unqualified people that the Biden administration brought into there. And I will tell you, one of the top 3 most stressful jobs you can have, man, is ATC.
Sure.
The crash itself, and I think a lot of people, everyone becomes like an expert in aviation when they're like, bro, it was because of this. It was because the girl had 500 hours as a Black Hawk pilot. And I'm like, well, that does have a factor to play in it, but there's like torque, fuel, aircraft weight, pilot cognition, pressure, altitude. Guys, just flying, let me tell you this, just flying in type of class A or B airspace, I would rather start my handgun than fly in that airspace, man. Because it is so confusing. When you fly, I've flown out of Atlanta before as a helicopter pilot. And dude, it was terrifying because there's so many different types of airspace and the radio transmission. If your pilot who's managing the radios is not on it, and if ATC manages certain windows of coverage, if they miss one call, man, that's what happens. And I was talking to a rotary guy, just the other guy earlier this week, a fixed wing, an airplane pilot. And he's like, man, it's so easy to miss calls. And people are like, well, I'm sure it was a terror attack and this, and this. I'm like, guys, there's way more that goes into it. Let me tell you too, I was an investigating officer on multiple air crashes in Afghanistan because those happen. And I'll tell you, man, you may not get the results for a year or 2 down the road. People go, well, what about the black box? I'm like, dude, this isn't a freaking Jason Bourne movie, man. Like there's so much more than what the last 30 seconds someone said on an ATC call that they didn't make. And so where our hearts go out to these families, these people that died, unfortunately, it's because of the inept, uneducated nature of DEI and that they're forcing, well, I need that this person's an Asian person, this person is a Hispanic person. I need them to be in this role to fill that base color blanket quota, so we can cover this job.
The quota.
It's sick, man. And then that is what happens when you have unqualified people. And the fact that the Trump administration is getting rid of DEI is the best thing that happened to this country, because what are they saying? They're not saying we don't want people of color in positions. They're just saying, I want someone that's qualified.
The most qualified.
I have I'd say almost 1,000 hours in a rotary aircraft. I'm going to say under 1,000 hours, all of which, by the way, is combat time. But it matters on the type of experience you have flying those aircraft. It matters with the type of experience you have monitoring ATC.
But let me ask this question, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we're doing the investigation. We're talking about the black box. We're talking about DEI. At first, they came out and said it was a transgender girl, man, and then he came out and said it wasn't me. But here's the ultimate question if you dig deeper. If you read enough into it, and I've read a ton into this accident, and I'm with you, innocent lives were lost. And there are people on these aircrafts that were young, which hits home. Then you turn around and 3 days later, they arrest 2 airport employees who released the tape of the helicopter hitting the plane. If it's an accident, it's an accident, right?
Yeah.
Why are we arresting airport employees? Because they have a pretty good view or a visual, if you will, of a helicopter hitting an airplane. Those are the things that I think keep people, that keeps the momentum going for all this nonsense that's going on right now.
Do you know who arrested
them?
Like who arrested those individuals?
Who did?
Yeah.
They were arrested in DC. They said they were, was it local? Was it federal? That's the question. So
yeah. So I had heard that it was more local, and the reason being, and here's where I think it's interesting. It's local because I think there's a lot that they're trying to cover up that they don't want to get to the public. And here's what I love about the Trump administration: whether you like him or not, the guy is as transparent as he's ever going to be. So just like the drones, within 48 hours of him becoming president, saying, it's this routine, whatever. I'm letting you know, just so you guys know. And I'm telling you, there's a lot more going on with the plane crash investigation, but I am more than confident Trump is going to come out and be overtly transparent with the American people and tell them, this is what happened. These were the findings. This is what you know. So the families can be at rest or have some clarity, but that the American people get the truth. And that's all we want. This is about the truth here. Right?
Well, I think we're seeing a lot more of that too, Jake, in the last 4 days, right? With what we're uncovering we're going to get into this. USAID, USAID.
Let's jump into it, man.
DOGE, right? Yeah. We're starting to get into this more where our mainstream life, and this is what I start thinking about when you and I were having this discussion before jumping on here. If there's nothing else you take away from this administration, nothing. You can hate them, you can love them, you can be in between, you could be in the middle, you could be Stephen A. Smith, okay? If there's one thing we can all agree on, if Stephen A. Smith was on this podcast with us, and I'd love to have him, and I'd love to have the discussion and debate this, is one thing and one thing only. We're getting answers to questions we haven't had answers for in 50 years.
Thank you. Yes.
Period. We are getting answers. Quite frankly, Jake, people are being exposed. Whether, and look, if something you and I were doing and we got exposed, hey, you caught us. You look at the politicians and the money they're making and the Pelosi's of the world, and how do you come in with a $180,000 salary and walk out with $30 million? We're going to expose that. And I think if there's anything we could take away from this whole administration at the end of the day, it's now we as American people, taxpayers, people who are funding all these sort of things. We know the answers. Going back to, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but all of a sudden Zelensky comes out and says, the $170 billion, I only got 70 of it.
Yes.
Where's the other 100? So I ran on right there, but it goes back. Is it DEI? Is it racism? But the truth is going to come out, and there are a lot of people who are really squirrely right now.
Let's talk about where the money's going. Where is the money going? USAID, Doge comes out, Elon Musk takes over, right? Elon Musk is literally clipping people left and right, saving the American public trillions of dollars here. All right, so where is the money going? USAID. This is I'm going to name some of these things where this is going to blow your mind, where money has been going under the Biden administration, what Doge has already caught. Guys, this is the tip of the iceberg too, because I didn't want to inundate everyone with all this information. $1.5 million has been set by the Biden administration to advance DEI in Serbia workplaces. Like, what the heck? $70,000 to a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 to transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a tranny comic book. I mean, dude, must be the best Superman you ever watched. Superwoman, I don't know what you call it. $2 million the Biden administration was sending out to promote sex changes in children in Guatemala. $6 million to promote tourism in Egypt. $20 million for a new Sesame
in
Street
Iraq.
in Iraq. Bro, what kind? Welcome down to Success. What the heck, bro? And so $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan because they have the best internet in the world. And they who's monitoring the type of disinformation that Kazakhstan's. So right there, 34 million. And I just snapped my finger that they're saving the American public. And then there was that whole list you had sent to me. We are talking multi billions of dollars, ladies and gentlemen, that the USAID has been having all of this federal money being pumped into it for no reason. So Doge is taking a double-barreled shotgun and blowing them away and getting rid of it. And people are losing their minds because they're seeing, Jeff, and I think obviously you've seen this, is Trump is saying true to his word. He is cleaning it up and making sure that the American people come first. And you've been seeing, like you just said, 170 however much billion that freaking Zelensky can't even be accounted for. Like, where is all this money going? I mean, we're talking the USAID. You've seen the picture of the two ISIS terrorists or whatever they were, Taliban. I don't care. They're carrying an RPG. They has the USAID logo behind them. Like, hey, we're sponsoring your RPGs, bro. So you're looking at a USAID shutdown for sure. And dude, and that again, that's the tip of the iceberg where the money's going. The American people, they just buckle up, man. Get your popcorn ready. I don't think that they really understand. I think a good chunk of us do. Clearly, that's why we elected Trump, to expose that. But to see where your dollars and cents are going, man, and why Trump is reducing that footprint so much, you're just getting a taste. I mean, did you see what AOC said about, because of Doge, right, in the USAID? You saw what AOC had said about Elon Musk. It's ridiculous. She was going on and she says, AOC Cortez, she's like, Elon Musk is one of the most unintelligent billionaires she has ever met. And because he's also,
how many has she met?
Oh, I mean, well, I don't know. But then she's also like, because he's putting 19-year-olds in the treasury. I'm like, so you're telling me you can put a 19-year-old in the treasury, but a 12-year-old can have a gender surgery?
That's right.
Bro, what?
So let me pause there and let's run this by the public and you, okay? Let's just say for a minute, because I watched the full 60-minute unedited version of Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
The 60-minute that Trump went and sued him. Okay. Could you imagine if she and her administration got elected? Because here's what I'm saying and where I'm going with this. All that stuff is straight pass-through. There is no checks and balances on that. If you don't pay your car payment or mortgage or your credit card bills or whatever it is, there's someone who's going to say, reporting you to collections.
Yeah.
Right? There's someone on the other end. So this was just one big empty cavern of, hey, let's let it roll through. When you're going through budget processes in the federal government up until Doge came about, was it just a simple pass-through? Was it simply just a pass-through that I worry about? We all do. Here comes tax season upon us right now. You have no idea. You're playing this game of the shell game, right? You're playing Russian roulette. What do we owe this year, right? But at the end of the day, who is holding this? Who's holding the accountability here? Because obviously, Joe Biden and his administration, we know we can go deeper into that, and we will at some point.
Yeah.
He wasn't running the country, right? No one was doing checks and balances, right? Until someone comes in, a third party comes in and says, I'm going to do checks and balances on this. I'm going to figure out what the hell's going on. I sent you that list. That is staggering to the American. If the American
I couldn't
people
go through it all. It was so much, man, that I'm like, if I showed this to all of our listeners, they're going to be blown away because, I mean, it's going to come out. I mean, it's already is coming out. I just think they're going to be overwhelmed and be like, well, now I know. Just like they're going to figure out how Martin Luther was killed, how JFK was, they're going to just be like, I mean, Trump's doing everyone. I mean, literally sent by God, man, for sure. Protected by God. The guy is there for a reason. People are going to see the truth. And then you have idiotic statements from AOC like this. I mean, this girl couldn't outthink a toaster oven, you know?
So, I think the thing is, Jake, and this is just a thought that came to my head, is how much information is too much for the average American person? And the reason I say that is this. We had what was it? The award show, the music award show. That was Sunday. We have a Super Bowl that's coming up right now.
Yeah.
And we're really trying to help out the folks with wildfires and stuff in California. Did we forget what happened in North Carolina?
Clearly not. Clearly not, because Trump already visited there. I mean, you couldn't get Biden out there in over a year. I mean, I don't know if he was sucking down ice cream cones, falling off his bike, or just like hiding in his basement, man. I don't know. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Trump is everywhere. If you listen to Dana White, man, talk about Trump and what he's doing, it's interesting for all of you that aren't aware, when you're serving at the White House as a president, there's always a Marine that stands outside your door when he's out there working.
I heard this.
They're like that Marine, or the rotation of Marines has not stopped, didn't stop for like 6 days. And they were like, when Biden was there, the Marine was almost never there. And so it just shows you the magnitude at which someone who does what he say and says what he does, like he is there for the American people. And like this money and a lot of the other deeper thing, how much is too much information for the American public to handle? I think he's going to provide all the information, but they may not come out on a camera and say it, but they're going to provide the information to the public, whether that is some kind of document within the whitehouse.org or wherever they're going to put it. It's going to be open to the public because we deserve to see it, and we're going to see it, right? And I think this is a good segue into some of the executive orders we've seen by Trump. And a lot of especially the recent ones that just happened, like no more transgenders in female sports. Like, talk about a W, man. Like, get him. And how quick the NCAA was like,
jumped on it.
Roger that.
Yeah, we're good.
We won't be doing that anymore, because they're like, get him out, man. Like, I don't need some dude in there playing with my girls and or giving them a reason to, God forbid, go into their same restrooms, moving the T from LGBT when I think most people don't even know what the alphabet soup even means and all of that. It's like, dude, they're getting rid of it. And what you see is a lot of people from these ELs, they're like, they're doing videos, because I'm deep into the social media space, is like, so we're just erasing them from the planet? He's like, no, when you fill out a federal form, it's going to say male and female, and not this whole zebra list of nonsense. Like, it's we need to get rid of that.
Sure. You hear, and this is from the medical side, I have really good friends in the medical profession.
Oh.
You have transgender folks walking in, and it puts people on standby from even treating people from a medical perspective who's come in as trans and they're male and transitioned over to female, but not body parts, right? And saying, I need different tests done that females typically do. And then they say, well, I can't really do a pap smear on you because you have a penis. And then I write a letter to the CEO of said health network, and then you have to sit down with your bosses and explain why you said that to that person. I mean, it's holding up so many things, right? And it is a mental illness, right? I think there's a mental illness component compared to, and it's very well documented too, Jake. There is a mental illness component compared to that. And I will tell you, being in the healthcare world for years and years and years and years, you would be like 3 or 4 on the list of, the expenditures when it comes to healthcare. Cancer is always number one. We're doing all the research we can. Different things and different things are going to come out very, very shortly. And when it comes to that, the ivermectins of the world, we know that. You read enough into that. But when you start seeing mental health climb from 4th to 3rd to 2nd, and on the same level as cancer is right now, that screams from the top of the mountain that there is certainly a pandemic going around for mental health. How are we going to address that? And I think from the perspective in the community of healthcare workers and hospitals and networks and everybody, the cost has risen so much in the last 2.5, 3 years that it's unfathomable what people are seeing right now, a cost associated with mental health. Right? Because what's the end all be all with mental health? What are we seeing the end all be all with mental health is unfortunately it's suicide, right? But how do we get to these folks before they get to that point? To your point, what you just made before, you're allowing a 9-year-old to make the decision to to transition over from being a boy to a girl at 9. But people have a problem with people who are 18, 19, 20 years old, who are brilliant, working with those to fix the country's problems. So double-edged sword, man.
That's scary, man. I didn't realize the statistics were that bad, but it makes sense to me. Like they're right up there with cancer, anxiety, depression. And I just saw a study that 77% of individuals that claim to be transgender are going through transgender transition. They have serious mental disorders, 77%. So 7 out of like every 10 people that claim to be trans, like they got some serious mental issues going on.
Let me put it in perspective for you. Someone very close to me works with an organization that does stimulators within the human body, spinal cord stimulators, brain stimulators. It's called STEM, right? Where they actually put a device into your body. It's like a pacemaker, the whole 9 yards. The number one thing that they have to do before they even go into trial, which means they put the stem in, the wires hang out, right? Is you have to do a psych eval before a spinal cord stimulator. Now, let me ask you this question. Before you go through transitioning from a little boy to a girl or vice versa, are you doing a psych eval to determine the why?
Yeah.
If they're doing it for spinal cord stimulators and brainstem stimulators, and you have to go through a psych eval and it has to be signed off by a professional, and you're telling me we're just allowing these kids to walk in the hospital and say, you know what? The last 3 days I felt like being a boy.
Yeah, and a lot of those, that's why Biden was making a lot of the states have the power, the ability to not even let parents have a say on what their kids do. And I will tell you, in the military, there is an extensive psych eval, and it's not as easy. One of my very good friends, she's a lieutenant colonel who's a psych doc, and she's like, I mean, they don't mess around, but now the fact that they're completely eliminating transgender individuals out of the military is a W. So, I mean, those are two great EOs. I mean, federal workers going back to work, you guys have been tracking that. They're saying right now there's 20, and I'm a federal contractor, doesn't necessarily reply to us the same way. But 20,000 took the buyout within days.
And then a federal judge said, hold on.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the judge can go pound it because that's going to go through. And then the Office of Personal Management, the OPM, because a lot of the liberals are like, 1,000's nothing. That's like 1%, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, actually the numbers, the OPM's actually reporting 40,000+ federal workers that are planning to quit because the Trump administration was estimating maybe 5 to 6%. And those numbers are going to be higher. And what they're doing, guys, they're cleaning up. They're making space in the budget, man. They're finding this is easy. This is easy pickings. Like USAID is probably just going to get shut down. I mean, think about this. And I had this later on, but the Board of Education, get rid of it. We don't even need it. Why? Because it's a federally funded organization. It doesn't need to be that way. And what is Trump saying to the American people? How about we give the education system back to the men and women, the families within the states, the representatives within the states that can have? He's like, that's not a federal responsibility. That's for the families within the states, and they do that. And then we talk about
Jake, just to go back on that real quick. I don't know if you saw this stat or not. 1976, I believe the Department of Education federally was instituted throughout the United States. Before leading up to 1976, forgive me, maybe I'm off a year or two, we were number one in the entire globe, education for our younger generation. We're number one across the board. You fast forward to today with the Department of Education coming in and putting their curriculum on the table. We are now 30th overall in the world, on the globe.
For sure.
Right?
We got teachers now taking down like their LGBT flags. And I see all this stuff, man. It's a joke. How about this? Ceasing illegal immigration, closing the border, day one. Like ICE. If you were in ICE right now, I'd be like, bro, now is the time to be in ICE. And everybody's losing their minds about illegal immigrants. When I use the word illegal, it means you're a criminal. That's what it means. And people are like, no, it's not. If you come across the border and you're a good person and you have kids, you're going to leave those kids without a parent. I'm like, bro, did you cross the border? Yes. Did you go through it the legal way? No, you're a criminal.
That's
Like,
correct.
you're going to go back to the other side. People, I don't understand, like, the world, the United States has been conditioned on a lot of things. Like, you're more than a male or female. It's okay to do certain things, but it's breaking all of the constitutional amendments. It's breaking every right that you have, and it's actually ruining American lives. People are like, well, who's going to be out there? I saw this on CNN. Who's going to be there to pick your blueberries? I'm like, what? Like, you're going to have Americans now being able to take over those roles because of we're getting rid of the illegal individuals. Well, who's going to cut your grass? Interesting how all the liberals equate some of the most, what they consider to be these like servant role jobs, quote unquote, to be for all of the immigrants that come across, the border. I think that's extremely degrading, extremely racist to even say something like that. But when you quote them on that, they're like, no, that's not what I meant. Like, it's not that. Like, dude, who's going to be doing those normal jobs? Americans that can pick up those jobs, and it's going to stimulate the economy. There's nothing new there. I mean, if you read the order, that order to, cease illegal immigration, it's direction to immediately repel, repatriate, and remove illegal aliens involved in an invasion. It doesn't mess around. And we're talking the daily encounters. There was a study that was done under the Biden administration, and on a daily basis, probably way more, but just in his last 20 days in office, Biden, he wasn't really in office, but his last 20 days, 3,000 illegals daily were crossing into the U.S. And the first 7 days of Trump, less than 100 a day. Sometimes the number was actually in negative because it was countering how many people were going back compared to were coming in. So, I mean, and so it goes to tell you that they couldn't possibly secure the border, could they? Yeah, bro. Yeah, you can. And I'm telling you, you got customs guys and ICE guys who are just biting at the bit to get rid of them.
Well, think about the number. Think about, too, the number. I think immigration is down 91% in January from where it was last year, right? Same time last year. Think about the number of folks who are self-deporting right now to later come back in the legal way, right? The number of people self-deporting right now is this astronomical number. We're like, I'm volunteer to do this because you know what happens? You get the old 20-year ban, right? You can't come back in if you do felony, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
The people who are like, look, I'm going to hit Monterrey, Mexico. I'll see you guys in a few years. I'm going to do this thing the right way.
Yeah.
I give Homan a tremendous amount of credit. And I'll tell you one other thing that you didn't hit on, and this is going back to this, is they're the big drug lord over in Aurora, Colorado. Okay, I don't know if you saw this or not, but everybody posted stuff, said stuff about how they completely took over the city of Aurora, Colorado. This was no more than 9 months ago. Okay, everybody poo-pooed it and said, that's not happening. It's not happening in Aurora, Colorado. ICE got wind of it. ICE had addresses. ICE had names, numbers, the whole 9 yards. And by the way, Jake, you know how they're finding these folks? With the free phones that the Biden administration gave them, they're tracking back to them and follow them around like GPS. So they go into Aurora, Colorado to this big, big spree. Someone tipped them off. Homan just found out who it was. What's going to happen to those folks too, right? Who are tipping these guys saying, hey, look, ICE is on its way. What do you do then, right?
They're going to get
How
them.
beautiful is this?
Yeah.
We took a page out of what the Israelis did to the Palestinians over in Gaza when we gave them all pagers.
Yeah.
Right? Remember that?
Yeah.
So we gave everybody free everything but phones. We didn't think, the Biden administration didn't think far enough ahead to say, you know what? That shit's tracked.
Yeah.
So we could track every single one of them. And for the Biden administration to come out and say, we don't know where they went. They came into the country and they were gone.
Yeah.
You gave them free. They have to have somewhere to get their credit card full every month. And where's their cell phone? Well, we can track you. Now we know where you're at.
All of that's going to get found out so quickly. They're trying. I can't remember what was the governor of Delaware or New Jersey. I can't remember, but he was claiming he was holding an illegal immigrant in his house. He's like, I'm not going to get. And Holman's like, yeah, you hang on to that person. We're coming to knock on your door, bro. You keep doing that. I guarantee you something's happening, man. Like there's so many easy ways to track this. Like much like USAID, very easy to track the money trail. Yeah, there's going to be a line order of 40,000 cell phones going to illegal immigrant. I mean, let's write that one off. That's going to come back to the American people. There's another $2 million we can save from the American public. I mean, here's a big one. The military surge that I don't know a lot of people are familiar with, but you saw Pete Hegseth come out with.
Say that, yeah.
He was like, January, we've seen the best numbers, the best recruiting numbers in 12 years. And man, that really touches my heart, because I remember back even when I got in, I was unfortunately under the Obama administration. But I know a lot of the soldiers I've talked to, a lot of my good friends that served under the Trump administration from 16 to 20, and now they're serving now. I mean, they said it was the glory days of the military. You had such good leadership. And now you're seeing the recruitment numbers off the charts, where they're now, the Army is reporting 350 soldiers a day. And it's astronomical, because in 2022, they missed their mark by 15,000 soldiers. And if people don't understand, well, that's not a lot of people. That's a massive amount, man. That's a massive amount. Not hitting what their normal annual average is anywhere from 60 to 70,000 soldiers a year. Defense of our nation, that's all across the world and internally across the United States. I mean, that's a big win. And also things like Trump is doing for his EOs to back pay a lot of the soldiers that were forced to get the jab, that were removed from service. And I think that's huge, man, because a lot of those guys may have had almost a 20-year window of service, and they're getting kicked out because they don't want something based off of an illegal mandate that the Biden administration was trying to push on everyone's throat.
Well, if you look back too, if you remember the tail end, maybe 3 years into the Biden administration leading into 2024, there was all the talk out there about another draft, right?
Yeah.
If shit goes bad, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Because the number of people that they kicked out, disqualified because of the jab, number one, and flat out no one who's got. Okay, let me go ahead and join the Army or Marines, and in this environment we're in, we haven't heard that either. I think that's huge right now that you're seeing that many. I was going to bring that up to you before too. That many more people and recruits that are coming through.
It's huge, man. I want to talk about promises made by the Trump administration, what you've already been seeing. And I think it's pretty clear the fact that he's drafted and actually solidified 300 executive orders within the very short time span he's been in, saved $1 trillion in U.S. investments, stopped foreign aid, which I think was a huge dub. And basically saying, hey, guess what, guys? I'm putting the Americans first. If the American public can't see that or doesn't acknowledge that, you really should start seeing that across really all fronts. I think another thing, and you've seen it, everyone's seen it. When you talk about transparency, I'm talking about the type of transparency of him and the new press secretary getting in front of the camera.
Yes.
Just talking to the American public, doing daily press conferences. Like, where was Biden, man? Who was running the country? And I mean, bro, every day Caroline's in front of the camera, literally just clapping cheeks, telling reporters to shove it, or just giving the American public the truth we need to be hearing. You know what? Sometimes I found as an officer in the military, just getting in front of your soldiers and giving the daily breakdown what's going on puts everyone at ease. They just want to know that you care about them, that you're thinking about them, and that they're getting truth. I mean, Trump is doing that every single day with the type of transparency he's giving to the American public. How many press conferences he's held, how many interviews he's done with different news organizations. I mean, it's left and right. And I think the American public is owed that. And it's been fantastic to see.
The other piece, too, is you don't have a press secretary walking out there with a binder that grows without a book. And you're carrying it with two arms, who has to thumb through everything to discuss to the American people and reporters out there what was just discussed 2 hours before that. I want to know something even deeper.
Yeah.
Who was running those meetings before with Catherine, whatever her name was, who was the press secretary, would walk out with this binder that was color-coded?
Actually, you want to know the difference between her and Carolyn? Is the old one, that young lady, she would come out, she's like, I'm the first Black, LGBT, trans, whatever, gay, blah, blah. And then Carolyn comes out, I'm here to wreck house and answer questions. Y'all can go pound sand. Like, she's like, the difference, like, you don't have to introduce, just, actually answer a question with a little bit of education or a little bit of intelligence. But we didn't get that from her. It was always skirting questions. And now Caroline's literally just dropping bombs and providing a really great outlet for new voices in the media community, a lot of the unknown individuals that I think get to come in and report, instead of just the mainstream legacy hot garbage ones that have been there forever,
They had 3,000 applications to get a press credential the first week when they open it up to influencers, social media, and other news outlets.
Heck
Because
yeah.
quite frankly, let's think about that for a second. When's the last time you opened a newspaper? When's the last time you turned on mainstream news? 6 o'clock news, right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to this. Everything you're going through right now, every topic we're discussing and hitting on right now, I want you to close your eyes and think about this. Where would we be without X?
Yeah, I mean, social media, right? I mean, the Sean Ryan show, Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, all these, they're using social platforms. The social platforms and social media is overriding the entire legacy media outlet. It's gone. I mean, if you're watching that still, bro, I mean, if you're still watching, it's okay. I get it. If you're conservative, whatever, you're watching Fox News, okay, man. But I mean, you better start trying to find some, and a lot of people are, they're finding more
alternative ways, man.
Yeah, alternative ways to watch social media. And it's all through podcasting, or it's all through some kind of social media. So like an Instagram or whatever they get to be. An X is huge for that too. And I knew Musk what he was doing when he took over that. Like that's why the truth is going to come out, man, right? Hey, well, so let's look at another promise made, East Palestine, Ohio. Did you forget about that one? How many people forgot about
Looked
that
like
one?
a nuclear bomb went off.
Yeah, we forgot about that. That train exploded with like everyone's walking around with like a third eyeball coming out of there. And it's like, dude, like out there, bro, we're from Ohio, man. You know what I mean? It's like, did we forget about North Carolina? No. JD Vance is out there and be like, guys, you are priority number one. We're coming out here to give you help, support, finances. We're going to bring people back on their feet. He's like, we did not forget about you. The airstrikes against ISIS operatives in Somalia.
Caves.
Goodbye. And not only that, dude, talk about an administration that is just dropping the big W on this. The fact that Trump's like, yeah, we killed him. And by the way, I'm going to post the video of it on X. And it's just this freaking Predator Reaper just boom. And all of a sudden this mountain explodes. And I'm like, dude, can I just tell you, like, America's back? Like, how cool is that?
Hey, let me go back to, you made a great point about East Palestine, Ohio, right?
Yeah.
That went away really quick. That was in the early parts of the presidency of Biden.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Norfolk Southern is still paying out an exorbitant amount of money on that. Here's my question to you, coming from a military background. When's the last time you saw a Cessna nosedive in the ground and the aftermath and it looks like a nuclear bomb hit? Now, people will say, well, there was oxygen tanks in that.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Jake, but a Cessna hitting the ground nose first, and the video of it and the concussion that came with it is a little startling to me. By the way, have we heard much about that? And that's only been a week ago today, which is Friday.
Yeah. No, I mean, dude, I've never seen that happen. I've never seen it happen that way. I'd be like, but you're out your mind. Like, if you're telling me that's how it landed, I'm like, I've seen missiles do that.
Thank you.
I have not seen a fixed wing aircraft explode like a freaking Hellfire missile out of a Predator drone. I have not seen that.
In the middle of Philly.
Right. Yeah, sorry guys. What is that? Like, Mary, get down.
Right.
Yeah, I have not seen that. That's crazy, man. I kind of mentioned it earlier. The education department destruction, giving it back to the states. I think that's a W. People don't understand. If you don't, it's all about saving dollars and cents for the American people, man. You don't need the federal government managing the Department of Education. Leave it to the states. The individual states can determine what they want to do. And then the individual families, bringing back the nuclear families, so they can determine whether or not they want to put their kids back in public schools or they want to keep them at home or do private schools, maybe do Catholic schools or whatever they want to do. It's up to the states. And I think that's a huge W.
The influx you're seeing right now in the education system, just locally, and you can look at it abroad too, is the number of states, what they're doing to combat that a little bit too, ed choice programs and that sort of thing to offset that cost.
Yeah.
You're seeing more and more and more people say, you know what, we got to get away from this, because at the time in the public school sector, in that space, they were teaching ideology, transgender's fine, we'll hang flags in the classroom, that whole thing. And I think a lot of people have spoken with the pen, Jake, just as much as they have with the voice.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree. I agree. You know, and I'll mention this last one before we jump to the last topic here. But in line with the ICE illegal immigration, getting rid of the illegal immigrants, El Salvador has accepted the deported migrants. So we're sending them out, not just illegal immigrants, but criminals And CCOT is picking up the criminals. If you've ever seen CCOT, man, there's actually a documentary about it on Netflix, and it is awesome. And it is a counterterrorism. It is, or not counterterrorism, is a terrorism, a terrorist confinement center. And it holds some of the most, I saw a lot of the guys from MS-13, a lot of these massive gang member organizations. And they basically, we're sending a lot of the criminals. We're catching like the rapists and the guys that are doing all kinds of stuff to kids, all kinds of stuff. We're sending them to CCOT. And bro, that is not a prison you want to go to. It is like the lockdown of all lockdowns. Those guys can't even fart in the wrong direction without, you know, something happening to them. So I think that's a huge W in terms of getting rid of the criminals that are hurting the American people and getting them out of the country.
Well,
Which
didn't we
is,
just
again,
see
another
where
promise
Guantanamo
made.
Bay? They just opened Guantanamo
Yes.
Bay back up too, right?
And you saw them say, like, dude, we're putting the baddies up in there too,
Yeah.
man, the bad boys.
Yeah,
And
which would
they're
be
not
a lot
even-
of the drug lords and that sort of thing that you're catching
Yes.
right now, currently as
Yes.
we're sitting here, right?
Yes. And so with all of those promises made, let's wrap it up here and talk presidential nominations. So I think there's a couple that people don't really know about, and I think we know the hot ones. And I want to end on Tulsi Gabbard because I think in the intelligence community, it's going to be huge for us. But I think it was really cool. I don't think a lot of people know certain individuals that got brought in from presidential nominations by Trump, like the director of the counterterrorism unit, which is Joe Kent. That's a huge W. If you watch the Sean Ryan show, which is an amazing podcast, that Joe Kent, if you look at his background, dude's a former Green Beret intelligence officer. He's going to be great for counterterrorism. Doug Collins, he was actually the widest spread in vote when they voted on this was a 77-23, but Department of Veteran Affairs, that's Doug Collins. I think those are two big W's. But what do you think about Pam Bondi?
Oh my goodness. The first thing, I was talking to someone this morning about this. If I walked into my court hearing and who I was fighting against, right, let's just say was a divorce court, and my wife has Pam Bondi sitting there, I'm walking out saying, you know what, I've lost before I even walked in. Balls of steel, man. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, that is exactly what we need right now because she'll tell you exactly the way it is. It's just black and white with her. What a breath of fresh air to have someone like her representing his cabinet. It's shocking to me.
Well, think about it. Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah.
Like, the liberals are always like, he's not going to, he hates women and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, he puts freaking dominating, strong women who clearly he hates women. I mean, clearly, because half his cabinet and half the nominations are intelligent, educated women who love the United States of America. But I thought Pam Bondi was a massive W. Pete Hegseth, obviously.
Great.
Good. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer. I think it was hilarious when they were they were going through his review and they're like, can you tell me what's the type of rounds that go in an M4? And I'm like my 6-year-old knows that. Like, you know what I mean? He's like 5.56, blah, 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 9mm for the standard, handgun Beretta, whatever the case may be. 30 rounds and says, well, what kind of magazine you're carrying? You carrying an illegal magazine or a 30-round magazine? He's like, 30 rounds. I mean, that's a no-brainer, man. It's just good to have guys with a set of cojones that actually can do his job. And I think he's going to be just a dominating force for the United States military and defense in general. What do you think about Tulsi Gabbard, man? I never really got your thoughts on her background. I'm going to tell you a lot of cool things about her. She went from a Democrat to a Republican. She's had a dynamic shift, but I think she's going to be a beast. What do you think about her as, the intelligence?
I think it speaks volumes. I think it speaks volumes, not only from a female perspective, from a political perspective, even more for her to actually switch sides and where she is in her life, at her age, to switch sides and to jump on board that quickly.
Yeah.
With her background, and you can get more of her background on that too. I think she's going to be a key player, and I think she's a strategically placed pawn, if you will, on this game of chess we're playing right now. Because I think for so long during the Biden administration, we're playing a lot of checkers and putting a lot of smoke screens in front of a lot of things, playing checkers. I think a lot of these appointees, I'm just saying this, I think a lot of them are truly, we're looking a lot further than present day. I think we're looking out probably for the next 8 to 12 years and putting pieces into place that are going to make a significant difference.
For sure. And I think you and me had talked about this before. I want the audience to think about this. Look at the types of nominations that Trump is doing. They're not 70, 80-year-old farts that are coming in here. They're honestly, man, they're about my age.
Generation
they're
X,
about 40,
man.
late 30s, early 40s. And why is he bringing people in there like that? Because they obviously have the qualifications. They're extremely experienced, but they are the generation that's going to carry the torch. It's completely a chess game. It's a chess game to make sure that the American public, that we build generations of continuity, longevity, sustainability for the American people. And that's why these are the types of picks you're seeing. And I will say they're extreme. And it's a different type of extreme. You had extreme ridiculousness for the last 4 years, but the reason it's like tasting like a fresh fruit for the first time, or something just so sweet and amazing, because you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it could be this good with these types of picks, because they're so great. Elon Musk managing Dodge, and basically the United States budget, he's like ripping that apart. It's like breathing fresh air, because they're looking out for the American people. They're looking out for, Joe and Mary, like small time nuclear family. Like that's who they're looking out for. So with Tulsi Gabbard, man, I think Washington's out. They're going to steep lengths to sabotage her, man. I think they really don't want her in there, because I think she's going to expose everything. She was an Army officer clearance for more than a decade. And I'm talking like TSSCI clearance. So for all those out there, top secret, sensitive, compartmented information. This is like the highest of highest tier information that she was a part of. And she's a concealed carry. She carries a gun.
Sure.
I mean, she is about as pro-American as you can be. And so, but we can trust her to defend the country, but we can't trust her to defend our secrets based off our background. And I find that hard to believe. And that's why, I think the panic in DC, I think panic in Washington, the panic across the liberal sector is real, man, because I believe that Tulsi, if and when she gets brought in as the director of national intelligence, she's going to wreck. You talk about exposing the budget, bro. She's going to expose things.
People.
And now let me tell you this. For those of you who are unaware, there is an executive order on the weaponization of government intelligence. And it actually empowers, and this is why I think they're freaking out. The EO that is based off of weaponization of government, Tulsi Gabbard, this empowers her to conduct a wide-ranging or an audit, if you will, into the possible misdeeds of the entire intelligence community. What does that mean? That EO, it orders Tulsi Gabbard to provide her findings and give them to the public. You don't think that the CIA, the FBI, you don't think they're freaking out when we expose them? And that's why I think, because of this weaponization report that she's basically, the weaponization of government EO, I think they know that she's such a patriot that she's going to come out, she's going to speak truth, and the American public are going to be blown away by it. And it's going to be amazing to see.
Well, it's the same thing. We pushed back the nomination for FBI for a week.
That just came out today. It's so funny. I'm like, you're trying to push Kash Patel's back. I'm like, because they're like, bro, can I get one more week, man?
Give me a week.
I'm going to pack my bag.
Yeah,
get my
so I know where we're going to fly off to.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the first thing he's going to do is the Epstein list, right? There's so many people tied into that.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing he's going to do. But can you give us a week so we can call and let people know and get our story straight?
Yeah, let me get my bank accounts in Switzerland aligned, man, because I'm screwed.
No, I'm with you.
Anyways, guys, this is just tip of the iceberg on Cancel This podcast. We went through some of the hot topics that's going on. A lot of basically news commentary, hot topics, things that we're catching, guys. We want you guys to hear it first from us, from our points of view. Jeff, bro, thanks for always being on with me, man. Obviously, we're going to continue to hammer this out on Cancel This, man. I'll give you the last words, bro, and then we'll close it out.
Yeah, but the folks that are out there seeing this, and you look at why we're called Cancel This, is we are the voice for the folks who don't have a voice. And if anybody has any topics they want us to discuss, we're more than happy to add them to the docket and have those conversations about it. We can get deeper onto things as well. We have probably more data and studies out there that we could get into, not to be monotonous with folks, but if you have anything, DM us, let us know. It truly is a voice for the common man. And Jake, I'm looking forward to it, man. This has been a great time. And as always, man, it's good seeing you, brother.
All right, guys. Till next time, next week, we'll get up with another show. We can't wait to see you then. And we are out of here.